Hello from Inspired Reflections by Shawnee. Thank you so much for joining me again. Today I will be working on the outer skirts for the live-action Cinderella dress. There are 6 organza skirts in total, a hologram, dark teal, lilac, aqua, blue, and the outer cornflower blue. Start off, I worked on the skirt yoke. I cut out the same matte satin that I used for the corset, and I made a front yoke and a back yoke. The first 4 skirts will attach to the bottom of the back yoke. Next, I will sew the side seams together. Then I ironed the seams open and turned the raw edges under, so that the raw edges were under. Then I ironed it again to hold it in place and sewed them down. Now I will start on cutting out the skirt panels. I did 5 triangled panels on the first 4 skirts so that there wouldn't be as much bulk around the waist. For the thicker hologram layer, I made French seams. So I first sewed the sides together with wrong sides together. Then I trimmed the raw edges down close to the seam. From there, I was able to turn the raw edges to the inside and iron the seam down. Then I sewed it again to enclose the raw edges on the inside. This makes a sturdy seam without having to serge the raw edges. Now I have 3 more organza skirt layers to make. I cut them out in triangles like the previous one, but this time instead of doing a French seam, I'm going to serge the raw edges together. Then I will flip the serged seam to one side and sew it down. This made sure the fabric wouldn't fray and was very secure. I wanted a smaller, less noticeable seam for these layers since the fabric is so thin and delicate. So basically, rinse and repeat. I did the same exact thing to the next 2 skirt layers. Finally, I finished the hems. This time I had to fold under the bottom, so I had 2 layers to serge since this fabric is too delicate to only serge 1 layer. Then I trimmed off the excess, folded it over, and sewed it down towards the inside so that I had a clean, very small hem. For the final 2 skirt layers, I just cut out the length I needed and gathered the tops of the skirts. These were supposed to be the fullest layers. The outermost cornflower blue layer, I added rhinestones. I made sure to stay away from the edges so that I could sew them together later. I did end up with some that were too close, but I was able to get them off with rubbing alcohol. To sew the side seams together, I just did 1 straight stitch. This fabric had a great salvage edge, so I didn't have to do anything to keep the edges from fraying. Then I gathered the top and pulled it together until it fit into the yoke. Then I sewed it to the bottom of the yoke. The last 2 layers are attached to the front yoke. sewing by hand the front and back yokes together at the side seams. After that, I sewed the skirts together from the inside, then I cut off the bulky excess and zigzag stitched the edge so that it would contain some of the fraying. Now I can turn it inside out and have a nice finished yoke. Next, I moved on to sewing on the hooks and bars. I put 4 hooks on one side and 4 bars on the other side. Now I can turn the top edges inside and top stitch the top of the yoke. Of course, one side of the yoke is taller than the other side, but I didn't notice that until I finished. And this fabric is way too delicate to unpick and sew again, so in the wise words of my favorite crafter, it's good enough. Also, I added hanging ribbon to the inside of the yoke so that I can hang it up easier. So here's the final reveal of the finished skirts. I'm really happy with it. It's not as big as the original, but this was already super expensive, and the top cornflower fabric I actually found at the thrift store. It was the perfect color, and I had just enough of it to do 4 skirt panels, the bodice, and the Bertha. So I settled with it being smaller since I couldn't find any other fabric that I liked as much. So I hope this inspires you if you're wanting to make your own Cinderella dress. I hope you join me for my next video, which will be the bodice. Thank you so much for watching and stay inspired. Bye!